So good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Boxing Media Hub. We're proudly in partnership with Jam Boxing Chat and Falcon Contracting. Almost messed it up. We're here for Boxing Media Hub's Boxing Hour, episode 11, featuring myself, Jam, and my main man from Cincinnati, Ohio, Mr. Serhan. How are you, brother? You good today?
Yes. How about yourself across the Atlantic?
Not too bad, thank you, mate. Weather's a bit shit, but it's Britain. We expect it.
Yeah, same here. We got the equivalent of Indian summer because it's all of a sudden bounced up to the mid-90s over here in Cincinnati.
Oh,
Yeah.
my days. That's some hot stuff. SW
Yes.
Fighters joined already. Big up Jam Serhan. Big up yourself, Sammy, mate. Thank you for joining. Right, so we're going to start the show today with the fights from last week as usual. So we'll start with Kamel Moten. What a sweet performance with that first round knockout against Victor Vasquez. What did you make to that, Serhan?
We have a guy that needs doesn't want to be in there, wants to get knocked out. You got to get him out of there, and that's what Morton did.
Yeah, he's a real talent, isn't he? 18 years old, he's already 5-0, looking real sharp, isn't he?
Yes.
Would you say he has to leave? Oh, sorry, Serhan, carry on.
I would say, looks like he's got real potential for a guy at age 18.
100%, mate. Yeah, he's part of the Mayweather stable, isn't he? I know this sounds bad,
Yes.
but Mayweather cares only about himself. Don't you believe that he should leave Mayweather and go with someone like an Eddie Hearn, who's going to protect his career and give him longevity in the sport, rather than Mayweather, who's going to use him for a quick buck?
Yeah, I think he can go to Hearn or someone like a Top Rank who does a real good job with young fighters like that.
Yeah, anyone but Eddie or Floyd, I think, can suit his career.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry, I meant Oscar or Floyd, but yeah, you know what I mean. Jabby Boxing's joined. He said, big up, lads, and everyone in the chat. Big up yourself, Jabs, mate. Thank you for joining, as always.
Shout out to Jabs.
Right, the second fight, I know we don't really want to talk about it, but it's Floyd Mayweather against John Gotti III. This was complete and utter trash. It was absolutely boring. Luckily, I didn't pay for it. I watched it the next morning. So glad I did that, because it was an absolute bore fest. What did you make to that, Serhan?
Trying to find out why he would resort to getting a referee kicked out of an exhibition match.
It was crazy, wasn't it? It was just so boring.
Yes.
So boring.
Oh, it was.
Mayweather's been offered a free fight exhibition deal as well, so people want to see more of it. I certainly don't. Unless he's going to fight some ex-pros. If he fought like, I don't know, even an Amir Khan in an exhibition, I'd probably watch that. But when he's fighting these bums who don't box, what's the point, man?
Nothing. Just for showing entertainment.
Weatherspoons and see better fighting, you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree.
Definitely. Håkan's joined us all the way from Sweden. Big up yourself, Håkan. He's just saying big up to Jam and Serhan. Thank you, Håkan. SW Fight Hub Sam has said these exhibitions need to stop. Completely agree. I will get my words out eventually. I'm having one of them days today, mate.
I do agree, but due to the status of
picking up Jabs and Håkan in the chat. Go on, sorry, carry on, Serhan, mate.
I do agree with him that we do. Some of these exhibitions are a little bit of a clown show, but the problem is because of how the state of the sport is right now, this is what we're stuck with.
Yeah, it's a joke, isn't it, really? It really is a joke. Just going to quickly mention Victor Ortiz, who made a return after 2 years out. Like, he looked so out of shape, didn't he? He looked so boring.
Oh, he did.
He really did. He was gassing after the second round. He was pure gas, wasn't he? Pure gassed. If it was a scored fight, he'd have lost for sure.
Well, the when you look, we're in out that as long as he has, and plus we take the amount of punishment he has, you're going to look like that when you're out of the 2 years, and it really, really showed. And I'm not putting any stock in performance because he was very listless.
Yeah, he was very poor, very poor. Champion Boxing said, I'd rather see a Mayweather-Ortiz rematch as an exhibition if need be.
They deserve each other.
Yeah, but Ortiz looked terrible, though, didn't he? That's the thing. Mayweather would absolutely school him again.
Yes. But that's how Floyd is.
Yeah, definitely. The only other fight I'm going to mention was from yesterday. I'm not sure if you've seen this one. It was in Australia. Conor Wallace against Jerome Pampalone. It was a split decision win for Conor Wallace, the Northern Irishman. And it was actually a really good fight. I only watched the highlights because I couldn't find the live stream. But he looked really good. He looked really good. Did you get to see any of that, Serhan?
From what I saw, I'm surprised it was a split decision because I thought Wallace won convincingly.
I had him by 2 or 3. Like just on what I watched on YouTube. SWS Boxing, Young Sam's joined us. Thank you so much, mate. He said, big up, lads. He's also said Wallace smashed him to pieces, I heard. So he's agreeing with you, Serhan. Like, he took him to the cleaners.
I've seen some Conor Wallace in the past. I like the guy a lot.
Oh, yeah. His fight against Jack Gibb was one of my favourite fights. It was absolutely amazing for 6 rounds. Gibb gave his all, the Australian. It was a fantastic affair.
Oh, great. Yeah, I've seen him before. I've seen him in other fights. I like what I see in him. Nice potential.
Yeah, definitely. That was on Paddy's Day, that one was. Me and Joel done a watch-along at like 11 o'clock in the morning. It was ever such a good fight. Very impressed with him. Yeah, right, so that's the end of the fights from last week then. So we're going to move on now to talk about a topic that you wanted to talk about, Serhan, which is the 4-year anniversary of the Hector Camacho story documentary.
Well, I bring this up because we're starting to live in eras where fighters are not starting to live up to the potential. This documentary revealed probably one of the premier guys who maybe one of the poster childs for it. We talk about all the the fun stuff with the theatrics with ring costumes, ring walks, and stuff like that. We talked about with Ben Whitaker not too long ago, and of course guys in the past like Hasim Hamed, and of course Deontay Wilder with his wild excuses. I reminded back to this guy because back in the 80s when exhibitionism was one of a rare kind, Hector Camacho was one that brought it to the ring. He dazzled, he showed, he was fun, but on top of it, he also was one of the more we call raw, talented fighters in the sport maybe ever. Never lived his full potential because he got hooked up in alcohol and drugs. If you watched the documentary, you saw how it ended for him, unfortunately.
Shot to death in Puerto Rico, sat in his car.
Yes. But a boxing
He'd already
career,
been shot 3 times previously, hadn't he, as well? He'd already been attempted assassinated 3 times before that.
Right. So the weird thing in the end is still the circumstances. 30 after that happened, like 12 years later, people are still wondering what the reason for it was because
it was his high school friend, wasn't it? His high school friend who shot him. They reckon, but they've never been charged, have they?
But it goes also to show you that we've seen this in a lot of fighters also when they get hooked up with the wrong people and wind up in the wrong places, bad things happen. That's probably the most fortunate part of Hector Camacho and his legacies because that's how it ended for him. I mean, marked by alcohol, in and out of drug rehabs, out of in and out of jails, crimes, whatever. I mean,
burglary, carjacking, amongst a few.
Right. I mean, it's a shame because this is a guy when he first came into the scene in '83 and knocked out Bazooka Lamona to win a belt. I mean, just like Mike Tyson, the star was shining. One thing people forget with this guy, he was a 3-time national Golden Gloves champion and had a chance to fight in the Olympics.
Gloves, yeah.
Had a chance to fight in the Olympics for the U.S. in the 80s. The problem was the U.S. boycott, which is another topic for another day with the Soviet Union and the political aspect. I bring this up because we see this with Ryan Garcia. We see this with a bunch of other fighters. Who the trappings of success and the fame of the sport can get to you and get to you in the worst ways. And before all of this, Hector Camacho, if you've seen the documentary, was probably Exhibit A. Even before Mike Tyson, we saw him self-destruct. And like Tyson, Hector Camacho had a father figure named Billy Gibbs, and a couple of the other guys, can't think of their names, who kept him on a straight and narrow for the longest time, fired him the same way Mike Tyson fired Kevin Rooney for Don King, and guess who promoted Hector Camacho? Don King, and we saw what happened there. And it caught up to him when he got to the 90s when he started fighting guys like Chavez, Trinidad, and De La Hoya, which we're going to get to here in a bit, talk about those fights. But yeah, when we think of some of the fighters, who have the struggles in and out of the ring, Hector Camacho was probably one of the poster child for people that who couldn't stand the straight and narrow, and because of it, unfortunately we saw what happened, and the world had a bad loss that we're still wondering answers why it happened and what was the motive for it.
Yeah, he was a terrific fighter, wasn't he? They said that the motive was it was a high school friend that he owed money to for drugs, but it was never proven. But he fought. He was 50 when he died, wasn't he, Hector Camacho? He won world titles in 3 weight divisions. He fought the likes of Julio Cesar Chavez. He knocked out Sugar Ray Leonard. He had the 2 fights with Duran. I know it was a bit of an old Duran, wasn't it? But he still fought him twice. He fought Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya. That's a level of fighters that he was in with. And yet he came out of his career in 2010, 79 wins, 6 losses and 3 draws. That is some fantastic resume in 88 fights, isn't it? Against the level of Ox he fought.
Yeah, you go back to, if you go further, guys like Edward Rosario, Bazooka Lamone, and Of course, maybe his stand-up performance was in '85 when he knocked out a 90-win fighter named when he shut out a 90-win fighter named Jose Luis Ramirez, in a fight where Ramirez was a grizzled vet and Hector Camacho just made him look novice. But the problem was at that point, that's when his life started a down spiral. I mean, he signed with Don King, had a fight against Edmund Rosario where he was never the same, even though he got a controversial decision win. He started fighting being a safety first fighter. It started becoming a villain. And we mentioned the Chavez fight, which we're going to mention here in a bit, where he was just absolutely beat down and bum rushed, and after that, he was basically done.
Yeah,
he got the wins over Leonard and Duran, but as you said, they were in their they were 40 in their 40 plus age range. So, but that's how it is in the senior circuit world of boxing. When you get to the 30, 40s, just fight guys are aged or mediocre opposition is what Camacho did to make yourself look better than what you really are.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah. And like you said about his criminal and his drug problems, that always obviously played a part in his career as well, which is surprising because he still had his mum and dad. He's got his sisters, his brothers, he had family around. I don't know why he went down that path, but I suppose the fame gets to you, doesn't it?
Yes.
That's a shame. SWS Boxing's just said, are we watching the Misfits this week, lads? Some joke fights. To be honest, the only reason I'd watch it is because former Leicester City player Danny Simpson's fighting. That's the only reason I'd watch it, but otherwise it's garbage. To be quite honest. Right, so next up then, should we talk about some of the undercard from the big card, Beterbiev Bivol? So we've got Shakur Stevenson doing his own pay-per-view on the undercard. How about that? So you've got a pay-per-view with Shakur headlining against Joe Cordina, and then you've got the pay-per-view of the main event, which is Beterbiev Bivol. Never seen two pay-per-views on the same card in my life, but talking about milking the cow, you know what I mean? They're just trying to make some extra dough, aren't they?
Well, I'll give him this much. When he left Top Rank, he signed with Eddie Hearn, and I believe he's getting $5 million for this, and people were criticizing him for it, so he looked good with it.
Yeah, definitely. And what's your prediction for that fight? Do you think he takes Cordina apart, boxes his ears off?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's an exhibition. I think it's going to be a wipeout.
I agree. Definitely. SW Fighters just said Shakur versus Cordina isn't a worthy pay-per-view headliner, in my opinion. No, I'd agree with that, mate. I agree. Definitely. On the same card, we've got Liam Cameron, a good friend of mine. He's a great lad, like online friend, and he's facing Ben Whittaker. We know all about Ben Whittaker. You've mentioned him multiple times. What's your thoughts on that fight? Be nice to Liam.
Do me a favor, Liam, and put him on his butt.
Oh, I'd love it if he did. I would absolutely love it if he did. It'd make my bloody day.
Although now I saw a recent interview with Ben Whittaker. I mean, he seemed very mature, giving him his respect.
Yeah, on Sky Sports News. Yeah, I watched the same one. He said his toughest fight, Liam's his toughest fight. He was really respectful, and it changed my opinion on a slight bit.
But we're going to find out how good Whittaker can be, whether he can actually fight or he's just about theatrics.
Exactly. Jabbit Boxing said, I don't think it should be a pay-per-view either. Should all be under one pay-per-view. Yeah, completely agree with that. The next fight on the card that we'll go through is Clark against Wardley 2.
Yes.
If you watched the first fight, it was an absolute war, so this will be a banger.
Yeah, this was in the making after the first fight. A rematch had to happen.
Yeah, it was a draw in the first fight. For me, I think Wardley should have got the win myself, but a lot of people think Clark should.
I agree. I thought Wardley won.
Yeah, definitely. Even with that smashed in nose, he still managed to control the fight for me. He was throwing the heavier shots, landing the bigger shots.
Wardley's as tough as they come.
He is. SW Fighter said Clark versus Wardley is going to steal the show.
I think so,
right,
too.
Is there any other fights on that undercard that you're interested in, Serhan?
Well, our favorite guy we talked about on our show a lot, Jai Opetaia going against Jack Massey.
Yeah, but that's going to be a good fight.
I think it might be one of the toughest tests for Opetaia because Massey always fights, but we talked about Opetaia might be a star in the making in our sport, and I think he's going to handle business in less than about 6 rounds.
Yeah, I've said 6 within 6 for Jai, definitely. Hawken has said Wardley versus Clark 2 is the only 50-50 fight on the undercard.
Agree.
Completely agree with that. Jai needs a big name pronto. Yeah, he does, but he'd had the 2 Bradish fights. You could call Bradish a big name. But I'd like to see Jai move up to heavyweight. I would, and challenge the big boys. I think he could quite easily.
But if Alexander Usyk goes down a cruiserweight like he said he would, he'll probably get one there. But it doesn't help Opetaia's cause where people like CBS, React and Zerto are hiding underneath the couch when he comes out in all these interviews on DAZN. I mean, the guy Jai's always pissed off looking for a fight, and I don't blame them guys.
Exactly. Yeah, who'd want to get in there with him? But that's the sport, though, isn't it? What's his name? Didn't he? Who's the lad who he knocked out from Britain? Jaya Pattaya. What was his name? It's completely left my mind at the moment. But he took the chance. Oh my God, his name's just not coming to me. If anyone in the chat can remember the British lad who Pattaya knocked out, please let me know because my mind's gone to mud. Oh, that was it. Thompson, Jordan, big Jordan Thompson. Thank you, Hawkan. My brain just wasn't working. Yeah, Jordan Thompson took the risk. Got sparked out, but he took the risk.
And of course, he had the two tough fights against Martis Bradis, who was, two real crackers of a fight. But Pattaya showed what he was made of.
Yeah, definitely. He's a real thing, mate. He's a real thing. Like I say, I think he'll pick up heavyweight world titles when he does move up eventually.
Yes.
Because Usyk and Fury will be long gone by then. AJ probably too, And then it's Jai's division to own. Be his division to own, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'll just wipe out what's left.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any other fights on that card you bothered about, Hawkan? Serhan, sorry? Bloody hell. I'm really messing up my words today.
I can't think of the opponent's name, but could you please beat Chris Eubank Jr. for us and put him away for good?
Yeah, I would love to see that, mate. Eubank Jr. is just a poser, mate. He's not a real fighter. Prices himself out of every meaningful fight. He's not real.
I mean, the guy. I can't forget the excuse he had when he tried to fight Triple G when he said he couldn't find a pin, which told you everything about Chris Eubank Jr. All we need to know. And of course, for some stupid reason, he was considered an opponent for Canelo Alvarez before we got stuck with Berlanga.
Yeah, but the reason that is because Chris Eubank turned around and said, I want a couple of warm-up fights first. After calling Canelo out, he then demanded 2 fights before he fights him. So Canelo said, tell you what, do one, son. That's why that fight's not happening now. Same thing he does all the time. He prices himself, talks himself out of these fights. He talks a big talk, and then he either loses if he does fight or he just doesn't fight at all. He's always been the same, mate. He just lives off daddy's name. He's not good enough. Never has been, never will be, in my opinion.
Well, his dad was a bit funky himself, but the thing is, his dad at least stepped up and fought the guys. I mean, you look at his dad's resume. He fought Nigel Benn and
Steve Collins. Ben. Yeah, he fought the best of the best in that time in the super middleweight and middleweight division. Absolute legend. Yes. Definitely. Is there any other fights on that card, or should we move on to our subject of the day?
Let's go to the subject. There's a couple of other fights, but I think they're gross mismatches. But those are the ones I think off the top of my head.
Yeah, definitely. Okay then, mate. So what we're doing today is we're going to do our top 10 one-punch knockouts of all time. Mine are not particularly in any order, but there's 10. So we'll start with mine's from a couple of weeks ago. I've gone for Denzel Bentley against Osaze. He caught him with that massive uppercut in round 2 after being outboxed for the first round and a bit. It was an absolute stunning uppercut. Brilliant from Too Sharp. What did you make to that, Serhan?
Well, I have an article about this in my site, We Like Sports, and you shared it on your X platform. I mean, I talked about it. That uppercut was perfectly placed, but then after he threw the uppercut, his body looked like he was dead. So he sits in a position like Osaze's hand was like this. So he times it with a right hook on the chin. Down he goes. And then the second he was down, the second Osaze tried to get up, the referee just said enough is enough. The guy's still wobbling across the ring. That was a perfectly placed punch.
It was beautiful. What you got on the 10, Serhan? Oh, sorry, mate. If you got something else to say, carry on, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a pretty good year for Bentley because he had a second round knockout before that against a guy named Dingham. I can't remember his first name.
Danny Dignam.
And then before that, we talked about it. He had a listless fight against Nathan Heady, where you guys over there, the British media just scolded him, where he didn't basically look so great. And remind you, this was 3 fights removed after he had gave a good performance against Janabak Anakakolomoli, whatever you pronounce his last name, but he gave a good account of himself. And another fight, we might be seeing those two go at it again.
Yeah, with the Heaney fight, he was going through a lot of stuff. His baby boy was in hospital in intensive care. His newborn baby was in intensive care. So that's why he was off. That's why he wasn't right in the Heaney fight. He wants that rematch. He was on a iBoxing Hub the other day with yours truly, Trey BMH.
Oh, that's
cool. And he said he wants that rematch and he'll beat him in the rematch. Just like FWS Boxing just said, Bentley beats Heaney. I think he knocks him out this time. Like I said, he was going through some stuff in the rematch. Yeah, definitely, Sam. I agree. Yeah, so what's your number 1, Serhan? Number 10, sorry. Bloody hell, I'm having a right mess up today. My head's just not right.
We're going to go on a time warp to 1989. This was a lower level fight. It was televised at the American station. We had an old segment called the USA Tuesday Night Fights over here, where every Tuesday night we had not the biggest names, but they put on some pretty darn good cards that makes you want to turn on TV and watch. This is a fight between former heavyweight champion Tim Witherspoon against a journeyman named Andres Eklund. The synopsis for this fight is for a United States belt, because Witherspoon was trying to stay in contention. The first 2 rounds were basically a snooze fest, but out of nowhere, Witherspoon just times him with a jab softly. Then out of nowhere, here comes the overhand right, and Eklund just falls over like a tree in a telephone pole, getting knocked down on his back.
Yeah.
And Tim Witherspoon was one of those guys. If he hits you with that overhand right, it's over. And this is basically the perfect example of it. Because after he lost to Bone Crusher Smith in '86, he was struggling to get a marquee win. But since he won a United States belt, which propelled him in the rankings, it was more significant than people think, because for here in the States, it's called the USBA belt. It's the equivalent to your British Commonwealth Championships for fighters in England, because it keeps you in the World Championship ranking picture.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Sounds like a good fight. I don't think I've actually seen that one, so I'll have to have a look at that on YouTube.
Pull the footage. The way he went down, you thought he was dead in the air.
Oh my God, definitely be looking forward to that one then. Right, my number 9 then we'll move on to. I went for one that was also recently, Angelo Leal against Venedov Lopez. Did you watch that one? What an absolute shot that was. It was a stunning right cross in round 4 after he was being a bit under pressure at the time, and it was an absolute sweet shot. The only problem with that is Venedov has ended up with a swell on his brain, hasn't he? So that's a bit worrying.
I heard he's doing okay now.
Yeah, they said he'll be able to fight again. It's not permanent, but he had a bit of swelling on his brain. There was a big worry at the time. He went straight to the hospital, but it was a concussive punch, wasn't it?
I swear, when I first saw the punch from a different angle, I thought it was watching a replay of how Manny Pacquiao knocked out Ricky Hatton, because it was almost the same sort of left hand. And you saw how he was knocked out. It was exactly how Hatton got knocked out by Pacquiao.
Yeah, when he ended up in the Star. I always remember that, laying on the Star unconscious. Broke my heart, that did. Absolutely broke my heart.
Mine too, because I thought I was pulling for him.
Yeah, he was a great one with Hatton, definitely.
But yeah, that Leo kid is something to watch down the road. I mean, 2-time world champion in that weight class out of Albuquerque, which produced the great Johnny Tapia and Danny Romero. He could be one of them. I mean, he's got the potential. What a perfectly paced punch to win a title.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. Like I said, Veneda's no mug himself, Veneda Lopez, so it was a hell of a win, a hell of a shot.
Oh, it was.
Definitely. So what's your number 9 then, Serhan, brother?
Sergio Martinez over Paul Williams in the rematch.
I've got this one in my list. I've got it at...
Where I'm about to go. You're about
to go. Number 8. It's my number 8.
Yeah. Okay, since we can just fast forward this a little bit. We're about to go on this. The first fight, Martinez thought he should have
points win, wasn't it?
Yeah, he thought he should have won, but I thought Williams eked it out because he got the early knockdowns and then sort of won the last couple rounds in a close competitive fight. Second fight, Paul Williams makes a very, very defensive error of where you're keeping your chin up in the air while your hands are down. And once your chin is up in the air and it's an open target, I don't care how hard or how soft you hit him on the chin, you're going 9-night. That's what happened to Paul Williams that night, and he's basically done for at that point.
Yeah, it was a proper overhand left, wasn't it? Right on the button on his jaw as he was pulling back in round number 2. And it was a hell of a shot, because most people thought Williams was going to dominate and win it again, like he won the first fight. He didn't dominate in the first one, but they thought he would in this one because he beat him last time. But it wasn't he left that jaw exposed and he got cleaned up.
He was knocked out. You can see it in Paul Williams' eyes. He was basically done. His face was almost planted through the canvas.
Yeah. I'm just going to go for a couple of comments quickly before we get back to it, Serhan. SWS Boxing said Bentley stops him in 6. I was talking about Denzel from earlier. Thank you, Sam. Jabbit Boxing saying scary knockout, that. One of my favourites. The sound of it was boom. Yeah, definitely, Jabs. Definitely, mate. It was a hell of a knockout. Sergio Martinez was a good fighter, though, wasn't he? Let's be truthful. He was a very good fighter at his time.
Didn't duck anyone. A fighter that none of the top guys wanted to fight because he had an awkward style. I mean, you could argue that both Floyd and Manny didn't want any part of him when he was at 154 when they called both of them out. I mean, we have elite southpaw like him who can always provide a matchup problem. The top guys will always avoid him, but he fought the top guys available and did the best he could. Problem with him was his body just broke down when he got older, and it basically was at the end when he lost to Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, no shame in losing to Miguel Cotto, though, mate. He is a beast himself.
Yes.
Jabbit Boxing saying Marciano's knockout over Jersey Joe was brutal, as well as going back a bit there. I bet that's on your list, isn't it?
Way up there. There's a photo. I'll talk about it when I get there. There's a picture of Walcott's face turned sideways and Marciano arched his eyebrows up and just poured him with that right hand, and that was it.
He was a beast, though, weren't he, Rocky Marciano? The only ever undefeated heavyweight, like, absolute amazing. Well, my number 8 was the same as your number 9, so you'll have to go for your number 8, Serhan, brother.
Lennox Lewis over Mike Tyson.
Okay.
The right hand,
hell of a knockout.
Well, basically, Lewis was sopped him up from the second round on. The fight was basically a wipeout. But what the final right hand that put Mike Tyson down and out, there's still that image of a bird's eye view of Mike on his face like this, both of his eyes cut, basically just saying he didn't want to try. Basically, you could tell on his face it was over. The second he hit the canvas, you saw Lennox Lewis is posing over Mike with his hands in the air because, Lewis wanted Mike Tyson for the longest time. And when that signature right hand of Lennox Lewis's put him down and out, he got the respect and the credit he finally deserved. Because, just as much as times with you guys over there, here in the States, they did bias act because he wasn't American. You guys know that yourselves also. But that fight finally gave him the respect and recognition Lennox Lewis worked hard for the longest time.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fantastic fighter, Lennox was. It was my dad's second favourite fighter behind Mike Tyson. And my dad always said if they ever fought, Lewis would beat him. He always said, and Tyson was my dad's absolute favourite boxer of all time. And he said to me, if they ever fight, Lewis will beat him. He will knock him out. And he did. Well, so props to me, Paul. He knows his boxing.
Well, let me remind people, especially the Mike Tyson fans, about two things with this. Because people are trying to say Prime Tyson this, Prime Tyson that. Lennox Lewis was Mike Tyson's mandatory on two separate occasions. The first time, Don King paid Mike Tyson $4 million to basically step aside so he could fight a lesser fighter, Bruce Soto, to pick up a belt.
Yeah.
The second time, they had to go to a court because Tyson held two belts and Lewis was the mandatory. The court basically said Mike Tyson had to fight Lennox Lewis because he was a mandatory. This is both in '96. The governing body, because of the court hearing, basically agreed to the court ruling, and Mike Tyson basically vacated the belt to pursue the Holyfield fight, and we saw what happened there. Yeah, any version of Lennox Lewis handles any version of Mike Tyson for one simple reason. He was tattooed with that signature jab of his, which you could argue maybe one of the 5 greatest jabbers of all time.
Definitely. Tell you what, that's a future show. We'll have to do the best jabbers of all time at some point for a future, like one of these, our segment.
Oh, yes. I got some good ones.
Definitely. So we're moving on then to number 7 now. So I'll give my number 7. I went for George Foreman when he KO'd Michael Moorer. That was in round 10 after losing most of the fight. His career was all but over. He was, 46 at the time. His career was finished, wasn't it?
He was taking a beating too.
Boom, overhand right.
Well, it's higher on my list. I discuss it more, but the thing is, I still remember out of nowhere, the lip of Moore bloodied and was swollen after that punch.
It was a hell of a shot. Literally, his career was over, weren't it, Foreman? He would never have fought again, but then bang, he knocks him out with that right hand and wins the world title.
In my opinion, he should have retired after that fight because he had nothing left to prove.
Definitely. Like I say, he lost most of that fight, didn't he? Most of the fight he'd lost, so...
Yes.
He should have definitely called it a day. Like, he got his title, he should have said, that's it, I'm calling it. 46 years young. Definitely. So what's your number 7 then, Serhan, bro?
We're going to go on a time warp here. This is back in 1985. This is a fight between Milton McCrory and Donald Curry. The welterweight division basically was cleaned out after Sugar Ray Leonard won the Undisputed Championship. This is during the middle of the Four Kings era with, Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Hagler, which peaked. This was months after the super fight between Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns, because they were trying to look for some names in those weight classes because the Four Kings was about to hit their downturn. This was for the Undisputed Championship, the first undisputed welterweight champion in a 3-belt era. One perfectly placed left hook in the second round, and Milton McCrory was down and out. You can see on his face. Just like we talked about the Leo knockout, it was basically the same version of that. One left hook, McCrory was down. You can see in his eyes, he was glassed out and concussed. The fight was essentially over.
Sounds like a good fight, mate. Right, so we'll move on to number 6 then. So I've gone for another quite recent one. Well, very recent one. Ashton Silve, H2O, getting knocked out by Lucas Bardi. This was a hell of a fight. Yes. Bardi KO Silve in round 6 with a huge overhand right. Bardi didn't even land a punch before that. Silve absolutely outboxed him, boxed his ears off the entire fight. But then that one punch just changed the game. And he was unconscious when that punch landed.
I'm still wondering why Silve would give him the opportunity for that, because he was fighting the perfect fight.
He really was. He'd won all 7 rounds up to then. You know, it was absolutely flawless performance. He looked so good, did young Ashton. And then he just took his eye off the ball and Bardi just pounced and absolutely cleaned his clock. It was a hell of a shot. Do you think they'll run it back, Bardi and Silv?
Probably. But the thing is, once you get cracked like the way he was, especially after you dominate, I wonder how his confidence is going to be.
Yeah, and how high Bardi is going to be coming at him again, because now he knows he can knock him out, not just thinking it.
Yes.
That's always a danger, man. That's always a danger, man. So what's your number 6 then, brother?
Pernell Whitaker over Juan Nazario. This is in August of 1990. Sweet Pea.
Yeah, can't go wrong with Sweet Pea.
This is the first undisputed lightweight championship in the 3-belt era. Whitaker was going to be the first since Roberto Duran. He's starting to ascend to. We're starting to see the ascend to the pound for pound rankings in his march to greatness here. Crazy thing was, going into this fight, he never had a knockout in a championship fight, but one straight left hand that put Juan Nazario face first through the canvas was his first ever knockout in a championship fight. His first ever first round knockout in a championship fight. Became the undisputed lightweight champion and started to ascend to greatness.
That's the way to do it, isn't it? Do it in your championship fight, you know what I mean? That's definitely the way. Get your first knockout in such a brutal fashion.
Oh, yes, because he was known as a stylist, but he had the power to, if he hit you well enough to make you respect him. The problem was Juan Nazario basically came in head first, ran into the left hand, face first, went with Nazario, and Pernell Whitaker just basically just marching around the ring. The fight was basically over. Nazario was down for like at least 10 minutes after the fight.
Oh, bloody hell, that's a proper concussive knockout, isn't it, that? He was brilliant, though, Sweet Pea. One of my favourites to watch on YouTube, Sweet Pea Whitaker. Absolutely amazing fighter. Nothing should be one for you. For him.
He's one that for young fighters need to watch because he was a master technician of his time.
Yeah, most certainly, mate. Most certainly. Right, so we'll go to number 5 then. Manuel Marquez knocking out Pacquiao in their 4th fight. It was a hell of a right hand. This was back in 2012. Obviously, Pacquiao drew the first fight with him and then won the next 2. So the 4th fight, no one expected Marquez to come out and do this to Pac-Man. Pac-Man had a solid chin, and he absolutely clattered him with that right hand, didn't he?
Perfectly timed shot. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago because Marquez felt victimized by the judges in the previous 3 fights. He said going into this fight, he was going to push harder for the knockout, and boy, did he get it.
Yeah, he spoke facts, didn't he? He always did, though, Marquez. He never talked trash, did he? He always spoke the truth, and he showed it on that night back in 2012. Absolute amazing knockout. Do you think Pacquiao ever recovered from that? Do you think he was ever the same after that?
He got a couple wins over Tim Bradley, but nothing worth talking about. I mean, he finally got the fight with Floyd, but we know that what the story with there was.
Yeah,
he had I mean, I know he should have gotten the win over Jeff Horn in Australia, but you could tell he was shocked. When you get whacked like that, you're basically, especially at that age, you're basically done. I mean, there's a reason why, Floyd finally jumped the gun to fight him after he got knocked out.
Because he knew he was shot to pieces. After that, definitely. Sorry, carry on, Serhan. I'll read Jab's comment after.
I want one last thing before to add with this. We're not saying that Manny would have beaten Floyd in his prime. That's a different conversation for another day. But it would have looked better on Floyd had he done this 5 years before he did.
Oh, 100%. 5 or 6 years earlier, it would have been a tougher fight for Floyd. Still think Floyd would have won myself, personally, but again, we'll talk about that in more depth at some other time. Jabit said, can still hear Roy Jimmy's fair play to them 2 wars. Amazing fights. He said Warriors. Yeah, definitely, Jabs. What's your number 5 then, Sam?
I said you went in and out for a second. I was going to say to back up the comment. I remember the with the camera pulls back, you can see Jim Lampley and Roy Jones standing up, screaming off the top of their lungs, saying, "He's been knocked out. He's been knocked out." You can see it at the longer view.
Yeah, definitely. He wasn't getting up from that. Like I said, Pacquiao's chin was so solid. No one expected that, did they? Let's be truthful. If anything, you thought Marquez might pull it off on points. No one's seen him sparking the Pac-Man.
I might put people like the 30 seconds before that. There were a couple times where it looked like Pacquiao was going to get the knockout, and then he made the mistake. Marquez timed it. The fight was over.
It was a hell of a shot. Go down in history as one of the greatest shots for me, that. Definitely. So what's your number 5 then, my brother?
We're going to go on a way back machine here. This is, we talked about it before. Rocky Marciano over Ezra Charles. Jersey Joe Walcott, my bad. Jersey Joe Walcott. Walcott was actually winning this fight. Then out of nowhere, the image of the punch that turned Walcott's face sideways with that right hand, and Marciano, eyes are arched up, put the weight in the punch. Walcott's jaw turned sideways. Down he went. Party was over. Rocky Marciano did that to many a fighter in his day.
Yeah, definitely. He did it to Ezard Charles as well, didn't he, at one point? If I remember correctly.
I mean, he did it, but not quite as brutally as he did to Walcott. I mean,
yeah.
Ezra Charles had his moments. So did Walcott. The thing is, when it came time to buckle down and land the punch and put the knockout, Rocky Marciano did. It was essentially that time's equivalent to the Marquez Pacquiao fourth fight, when he basically just said, "Enough is enough. I'm going to land the right hand. We're knocking the guy out, and we're going home."
Definitely. Marciano was some fighter, though, weren't he? Retired undefeated. There was rumours he was run by the mob, wasn't he? Like, the mob used to bet big money on his fight, so he had to win, otherwise he'd probably be killed. You know what I mean?
Well, those are the same lingering rumors about Sonny Liston. Same thing.
Yeah. Another great fighter, Sonny Liston.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks when we talk about an historical fight of a lower level, I will detail how a crime mob worked, because there's a fight between Antonio Escalera and Tony Everett that had a lot of mob involvement. I will detail probably in a couple of weeks. I will dig into the research, because you guys got to hear how crime mobs work.
That'd be a great topic, definitely.
This goes beyond, power play with promoters like Don King, Bob Arum, all them guys. This was a whole different story, which led to a whole lot of tragedy after the fight because of it.
Yeah, this was real mobs, weren't it? Like real Italian gangsters, real mobs like New York mobsters and stuff getting involved in the sport.
I encourage everyone to look up an individual named Honest Bill Daly. He was one of the ones that was in a mobster who was in the fight game back in the day.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Serhan. Right, so I'm on to my number 4 then, inside. Right, this one, it is a one-punch knockout, but it's not, if you know what I mean. Antonio Tarver, when he knocked out Roy Jones Jr. Like, it was classed in the record books as a TKO, but it was actually a knockout because he knocked him down. The referee did stop the count and let him back up, but then he was just staggering around. He was done. And then he stopped the fight. But it was a one-punch knockout, wasn't it?
Best remembered for when Antonio Tarver said during the stare down to Roy Jones' face, "Do you have any excuses tonight, Roy?"
Yeah, like no one expected Tarver to knock out Roy Jones. Roy Jones seemed formidable, didn't he? He was unbeaten. He was an absolute beast. No one seen him getting knocked out by Antonio Tarver, of quite an unknown quantity at the time. And he just took his chin clean off, didn't he? It was an amazing knockout.
Well, remember people.
Second round as well, wasn't it? Second round, that one.
Yeah, like a minute in the second round. The mistake that Jones made again, it was a perfectly timed punch right on the spot. But of course, when people have seen Roy Jones fight in the recent years, people wonder when he was about to get found out. And that night he did. And that was basically all she wrote for the rest of his career.
Yeah, he was never the same. Most boxers ain't once they get knocked out. Same with Ricky Hatton after Mayweather did him. Mr. Neutral joined us. Good afternoon, gents. Good afternoon, Mr. Neutral. Thank you for coming through, brother. Just to let Mr. Neutral know, we're just doing our top 10 one-punch KOs at the moment, mate. So you're on to your number 4, Serhan, brother. Who you got?
Another trip to the Wayback Machine. This is Sugar Ray Robinson knocking out the hell out of Gene Fullmer.
Oh, yeah. Talk about this one for a minute.
Yeah, we got a little history lesson here. Going into this fight, for Ray Robinson to complete that greatest pound for pound ever, he had one ambition, working on his left hook. It was called Mission Left Hook during training camp. 5th round, he placed it perfectly right on Fulmer's chin. Down went Fulmer. I mean, the dude was like stone cold on the canvas. Sugar Ray Robinson was a do-it-all fighter. That fight basically showed he was more than just a classy stylist, and he could put some pop in his punch. Gene Fullmer made the mistake, as everyone else did, with Ray Robinson, underestimating him and his power. One left hook right on Fulmer's chin. Party was over. Shut off the lights.
Sounds like a cracker, mate. He was some fighter, though, weren't he, Sugar Ray? My gosh, he was some fighter. Probably, arguably, the greatest boxer of all time.
Well, we talked about before, Ali being the greatest. Ray Robinson was the pound-for-pound greatest. Even Ali said this a couple of times during his run as a champion. He said, "I am the greatest. I am the greatest, and I proved it." But we talk about the pound-for-pound greatest. Nobody tops Sugar Ray Robinson.
I'd agree, mate. I'd have to agree. Mr. Neutral said, "Oh, good stuff. Thank you, mate." Right, so we move on then. We're on to number 3 now, aren't we?
Yes.
So I've got Hasim Rahman knocking out Lennox Lewis in South Africa in round 5. It was An absolute huge right hand that Lewis never seen coming. No one in the world seen it coming. And Hasim Rahman knocked out the formidable Lennox Lewis and absolutely cleaned his clock. What a story this was back in the day, because no one's seen this coming, did they?
4 things with this. The first one, it was later revealed that Lennox Lewis basically didn't train adequately because he was so fixated with Mike Tyson at the time. You know, because I remember there's a documentary about Lennox Lewis where even Jim Lampley and George Foreman, who worked for HBO at the time, you could see in the face he knew something was about to happen to this guy, and it happened that night. Second of all, the crazy part was I didn't know this till I watched a replay of this. Hasim Rahman just started peppering with a jab. Lewis just dropped his hands and smirked at him before the knockout, as if to say, "That's all you got." And here comes Hasim Rahman with the right hand. Out goes Lennox Lewis.
He was gone.
Yeah, he hit him so hard. Lennox Lewis even asked Emmanuel Stewart what happened. I mean, that's how hard he hit him.
I remember that. He goes to the corner and says, "What happened? What happened?" He says, "You got knocked out." You know what I mean? You got knocked out, son. It was a brutal one.
He took it quite hard. And after the fight, Lennox Lewis basically acknowledged the right hand that Rahman knocked him out with knocks out any heavyweight, because it's a man over 200 pounds who could put a punch on your face anywhere, anytime. Because a lot of people maligned Lennox Lewis, after that fight, which he admitted he had a mental lapse because he was so fixated with Mike Tyson. And he take it seriously. But as we saw in the rematch, Hasim Rahman got his Lennox Lewis got his payback, and Hasim Rahman was found out never the same. That was Rahman.
Yeah, definitely.
That fight in Johannesburg, South Africa, was Hasim Rahman's 5 minutes of fame, and that was it.
That's it. It just shows the old adjective, though, doesn't it? That any heavyweight can knock out any heavyweight if he lands that one shot. Any boxer can knock out any boxer if he lands that one shot. But at the heavyweight game, it's tripled, isn't it? Multiplied by many. Because a 200-pound man smacks another 200-pound man, someone is going to sleep.
James Buster Douglas could tell you about that, what he did to Mike Tyson back in 1990.
Exactly. Mr. Neutral just said Tyson against Spinks in 91 seconds. I was going to put that on my list, but because I didn't watch it live, I didn't actually watch that one. I think I listened to it on the radio with my old man, so I didn't put it in there because I didn't watch it.
The problem I had with that fight was the fight was basically over in the locker room when Michael Spinks didn't want to come out. So I mean, it was a stirring event, but it's nothing worth to go crazy over, because later we find out Michael Spinks was basically done because he cashed out of what turned out to be $15 million and basically got out of the sport after that fight. He was basically done in the locker room, and you could tell when he was walking to the ring, he was scared.
Yeah, definitely. Well, who wouldn't have been scared of Tyson back in 91? Most men would be fearing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wouldn't want to come out. I would for the right 15 million. I would have ran it in me. I'd have ran at him. But that's just life, isn't it? 15 million, mate. I'd fight bloody Tyson Fury, Usyk, Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and a prime Tyson all at the same time for 15 million. I either die and don't get to spend it, or I live and I get to spend 15 miller.
Right.
I'd be fucking with that. You know what I mean? For definite. Right then, mate. What's your number 3?
Julian Jackson over a fighter from your side of the pond, Harold Graham.
Oh, I remember this when he knocked out Harold Bomber Graham. Oh, my days.
Let me remind. He did it with one eye swollen shut. Was basically said, if you don't give me any, basically the corner and the doctor said to him, "You don't do anything this round, we're stopping the fight."
Yeah.
Harold Graham was coming on out of nowhere. Here comes the right hand. Out cold was Harold Graham. And Julian Jackson was a brutal puncher in his day.
Definitely, mate. I remember watching this on Sky Sports. What year was this, Serhan? Can you remember what year it was?
90. This was like weeks after Buster Douglas upset Mike Tyson. They fought in some country. I think it's like I can think of like the Cayman Islands or something like that. It was in a different country I never even heard of.
Yeah, okay. I remember watching it. I went round to my neighbour's house who had Sky TV when it had just come out, and I went round and watched that fight. I must have only been 7 years old. You know what I mean? 8 years old.
Yeah. The first 3 rounds, Graham was giving Jackson a boxing lesson, and basically Jackson's eye was swollen shut. But out of nowhere, here comes the right hand, and out cold was
Harold Bomber Graham.
Graham, yeah. And Graham was a solid fighter too.
He was, mate. He was. He was really underrated at one point. He was very underrated for how good he actually was.
Yeah, he got a win over. He got a win in a title eliminator in your side of the pond over Vinny Pazienza years in '97. He got a title shot against Charles Brewer, which he held his own till he got clocked in the later rounds. So he had some solid wins over there. I believe he fought Nigel Benn too at one point.
Yeah, he lost.
Yeah, but nobody was beating Nigel Benn at that point over there.
No, definitely not, mate. Definitely not. The Dark Destroyer was something different. But Vinny
Oh, he was.
Pacienda, who you mentioned, Vinny Paz, one of my favourite fighters he is. Absolutely love Vinny Paz. He follows me on X. I speak to him quite often. He's a lovely, lovely man. And his PR girl, Zena, you know what I mean? They're always chatting boxing. They're proper legends of the game.
An action, blood and guts fighter who brought it in every fight. It made you watch the television.
100%. We've actually had him on Boxing Media Hub. So anyone in the chat, check out the catalogue on Boxing Media Hub and have a look for Vinny Pacienda. Absolute amazing interview with him. It's from many, many years ago that Joel did on JG's Fight Talk, which is now Boxing Media Hub.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a good one, mate. It was a good one. So we're on to number 2 then, aren't we? So I went for Canelo against Amir Khan at the 155-pound catchweight fight.
That was my favorite knockout.
Literally knocked the snot out of him. When he actually smacked him so hard that snot poured out of his nose and went back up. And Khan was absolutely unconscious. That right hand was one of the thing of beauty, wasn't it?
I loved it because perfectly placed on the spot. It was basically a synopsis of what Amir Khan's career was.
Yeah,
because when he was knocked out by British Prescott way back when, I said all along, this guy's gonna be caught again. He was caught a couple more times prior. Yeah. His ability was good, but after he won a belt, he had a real big ego, started going crazy over chasing Floyd Mayweather. And he was knocked. He lost to Lamont Peterson, although after the fight, Peterson popped 30.
It was.
And then he got whacked out by Danny Garcia, and that was basically an average fighter after that. Canelo just basically took him in the ring and put what was left of him out to pasture. I know he had a couple losses to Terrence Crawford and way later, and of course, Kell Brook, a fight that was like 8 years past his expiration date, but still, he basically was found out and finished.
Yeah, definitely. He'd moved up a lot of weight though to that 155 catchweight to fight Canelo, but he was never going to beat Canelo. He was outboxing him though for that first 4 or 5 rounds. But that punch just equalised him. It was an equaliser sent from God, and it just knocked him absolutely sparked the fuck out. And to be honest, I always backed the Brits, but I wasn't too downhearted by it. I wanted to see it because of how arrogant Khan had got.
I know people in your country were starting to get tired of his act.
Exactly. It was just like talking about these big fights and that, but never turning up for them, just, I don't know, just lost a lot of respect for the man. But anyway, what's your number 2, Serhan, my brother? What's your number 2?
We mentioned it, the 4th Marquez-Pacquiao fight.
Oh, yeah. Anything else you want to add about that one, though? It was a hell of a shot.
After Julio Cesar Chavez retired, we had Mexico was looking for a standout, fighter. Morales and Barrera had their moments, obviously, and of course their trilogy. Ricardo Lopez, a fighter who fought in a weight class nobody ever heard of, finished undefeated. But when he won this fight, Marquez, he basically ascended to amongst the top 5 Mexican fighters of all time. And it was basically the biggest win for Mexico since Chavez knocked out Meldrick Taylor, which was like 22 years before this happened. And it said a whole lot because Marquez was one of those guys that was doing anything and everything he could. He took the very, very hard road to get to the top, and he finally did it. And this night, he basically ascended, among the plethora of all-time great little big men.
Yeah, he was fantastic. SWS Boxing said he met Amir Khan at Charlton versus Adam Azim show. He's a nice guy when you speak to him, but he just got a bit big for his britches back then, you know what I mean? Now he's calmed down again, apart from the fact he's posting on X about selling his £12 million bloody wedding chapel. Who's going to buy that on X? You know what I mean? That's just showing off, isn't it? No one's going to see it on X and go, yeah, I'll give you 12 mil. Here you go, Amir. You know what I mean? He said it on a real estate site, not on bloody X. Just showing off, isn't he?
Did you really say he's selling his wedding chapel?
Yeah, he owns a wedding chapel. He's selling it for £12 million. On X, he's trying to sell it on X. Like, he's posting it on his X account, trying to sell it for 12 million. Like, people on X have just got spare 12 million. That, we are. I'll take it.
You must be really desperate for money, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Neutral has said Jeff Horn's KO of Pac was a peach. Jeff Horn was a good fighter, maybe Aussie, to be fair. Doesn't get the respect he deserves, in my opinion. But anyway, we're on to our number 1 of this list of the top 10 one-punch KOs. Mine is from the year 2000, Mr. Danny Williams. He was fighting against Mark Potter, and he dislocated his shoulder in the first round. It was completely out, and he could not get it back in. So he fought the entire fight with just his right arm. Just popping out the jab, getting dominated. Got to the final round. He's about to lose on points massively, and he just pulls out a right hand from heaven and absolutely knocks him spark out. It was a hell of a situation. To have a dislocated shoulder and still knock your man out in the last round after losing every round was absolutely amazing. Do you actually remember that fight back in the year 2000?
I remember it being talked about when he beat Mike Tyson and fought Vitaly Klitschko because it was talked about when he in those big fights. He mentioned it himself. It was brought up. A very courageous fighter and a very courageous performance that day when he could fight with one arm.
Definitely. And it was for literally the whole fight. It happened in the first minute of the first round, and he knocked him out in the last minute of the last round. It was absolutely unbelievable. Jabbit Boxing said, great shout, that Jams, what a warrior. Yeah, big up to Danny Williams and big up to Jabbit Boxing. Thank you, Jabs. It was a hell of a shot, mate. It was like, it was like I say, sent from heaven. It was just, he had to knock him out there and then to win that fight, and he did it. And then he got the Audley Harrison fight from it. So he got a big fight as well.
Audley Harrison was a tricky fighter. I mean, he had a great amateur career, but his pro career didn't turn out the way he should have.
Glass jaw, mate. Same as Amir Khan, he had a glass jaw. Anytime he got touched, he went down like a bag of spuds, you know what I mean? Just poof.
Because he came, I believe he came a couple times to the States, because he was on the ESPN show a couple times here.
Yeah, Neutral said superb KO, Jams. Yeah, it was, mate. It was absolutely amazing. It was amazing. So then, Serhan, we move on to your number one. I've got a feeling it's going to be Rocky Marciano. Is it? No?
Nope.
Who we got then? Who we got?
June 15th, 1984, Thomas Hearns over Roberto Duran, round 2.
Oh, what a beauty. What a beauty. Go on, talk us through this one, Serhan, mate.
Well, Roberto Duran, after no mas, lived a wild lifestyle in and out of the ring. It caught up to him on this day. Thomas Hearns was probably one of the most coldest punchers ever. Roberto Duran had the sturdiest chin ever. Roberto Duran was a year removed from giving Marvin Hagler the toughest fight of his career. And nobody thought anyone could do this to the great Roberto Duran. On that night, Thomas Hearns was a man possessed, because if he won, he would have had the fights against Hagler and Leonard. And the right hand that turned Duran's face sideways and laid him down. You can hear this splat, almost like a wet rag hitting the floor when Duran hit the floor face first. He's still sleeping 40 years later. But that's right hand that Thomas Hearns pasted you on the canvas with. Good luck. Second hit your chin, party was over. And Thomas Hearns, for his time, maybe the most brutal puncher in boxing history. I guess Jam steps aside here. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on Thomas Hearns. He also had a fight.
I have to blow my nose. I didn't want to do it on camera.
That's fine. I'm elaborating about the knockouts. There's another knockout he had is probably close when he fought Pepino Cuevas in 1980 the same way. Right hand, because if he hits you with the right hand, you're going to the canvas. He did it to Pepino Cuevas in 1980 to win a welterweight title, which set up his super fight with Sugar Ray Leonard in 81. When he knocked out Roberto Duran face first, it set up that giant super fight with Marvin Hagler a year later. The reason why he's number one, because nobody ever even thought about or even dreamed about something like that happened to Roberto Duran, and Thomas Hearns did it that night.
Yeah, the Hitman was a real one, wasn't he? Let's be truth. He's a real one.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes. Mr. Neutral has said, Lewis versus Galotta. There's a KO.
Well, Lewis did the right thing that night. Lewis did the right thing that night, given what Andrew Galotta did to Riddick Bowe in their 2 fights. Just went out there, got rid of him, and moved on.
And he's saying, yes, sir, and 100%. So he agreed with your pick for number one for sure. So that wraps up our top 10s then. Let us know in the comments what you thought of them. And any other subject topics you'd love us to do as like a special feature for the next show, please let us know in the comments. We appreciate y'all. So we'll go to, there's not much coming up this weekend, but there's a couple of upcoming fights. We've got Diego Pacheco against Marshal Selecki. What do you make to that one, Serhan?
I think it was a good fight. I didn't know it was happening this soon. I knew it was talked about, but when I saw the face-off, I figured when I probably give a slight nod to Pacheco, but Selecki is no pushover. I think this is a pick'em fight.
Pacheco's young though, and he's 23, whereas you've got the Polish man, Marshal. He's 35. He's never been stopped. He's only lost 2 by split decision. He's won the 12 others. So it's a good step up for a young Diego Pacheco, and I think Pacheco's going to get him out of there late for me. I think he might just get to his man and be the first one to stop him. If he does, that's a huge statement for Pacheco.
I agree.
SWS Boxing has said Pacheco for the KO. Chev Clark is a good fight. Yeah, that's the next one, Sammy, that we're going to get to, bro. So the next fight was Chev C4 Clark. I don't know if you know much about him, the Brit.
I've seen a little. I've seen a little bit of Chef Clark. I like him.
Yeah, he's 9-0. He's a solid, decent fighter. He's fighting Efetobar Apochi. Now the Nigerian's 12 wins, 12 knockouts. So he could obviously bang. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, somebody's gonna get banged.
Yeah. The only thing is with Apochi, he's a US-based Nigerian. He's had a couple of decent level fights, but he's not really mixed it at the top table yet. So we're going to find out what he's about, you know what I mean? And Chef C4 Clark is his first time fighting in America, so... This is in Carson, California. This is on the 31st of August, which is this Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday.
SBS Boxing said there's a show in Barnsley this weekend. And Misfits, yeah, I know there's the Misfits. Great show and subject chats. Thank you, Mr. Neutral, mate. I appreciate that. So another fight that's coming up this weekend is Adelaida Ruiz against Ginny Fuchs, the German world champion fighter, well, former world champion. I don't know if she holds a title at the moment. What's your thoughts on that one, mate, before we wrap the show up?
Adelaide. I like Fuchs, but I think I got Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm going Adelaide Ruiz, definitely. I think she'll take it. I think Ginny Fuchs is getting a little bit too old now, a bit too long in the tooth. But we'll see. Germans can roll back the years. Germany's done it for years with 40-year-old players in the football, so you never know. You never know, mate. Right, we've still got 3.5 minutes, Serhan. If there's anything you want to say before we go, bro? Could be any
We've had a conversation about these moronic governing bodies over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
We're reliving the same thing that I lived 25 years ago. When one of these ones were exposed in a federal indictment here in the States. There's a documentary called Boxing In and Out of the Ring that chronicles this minute by minute, second for second, step for step, that include a boxer named William Guthrie, which chronicles a lot of this. One thing, we still have people in our community, whether it be whatever platform it is, that wants to give these governing bodies credit for stripping fighters of belts. Here we go, because I have to re-educate all you morons out here again. You're given it's been chronicled many times. The fighter makes the belt doesn't make the fighter. If you're one of those ones who think the belt makes a fighter, you better have a legit reason to me as to why you think it is. Because we have people, especially the Canelo stripping not too long ago, and I know Alexander Usyk dropped the belt, the same governing body, and I believe, don't be surprised if after the Bivol Better Biev fight happens, the winner of that one gets stripped of that belt. It's becoming a joke. We have people in the boxing community who try to play the belts matter. I encourage you to watch an interview with Mike Tyson not too long ago when he said the belts were garbage, because we're seeing it with our very eyes once again. These governing bodies playing games, probably some kind of bribery underneath the table that no one's blown a whistle on as of yet, because that's what it took to get this one in the court back in 1999. This stuff in our community, I said before, anyone that mentions these stupid letters in their posts or their tweets or in their live streams or whatever, y'all need to shut up and stop. Simply because these guys are a joke. They don't deserve 5 minutes of our time. They deserve 5 seconds of our time. And if you guys are one of those ones giving these governing bodies 5 seconds of your time, might as well go over there and kiss their ass, because they deserve your lips on their ass. And you don't deserve any time with us, because we're here to see a fight. We're not here to see the importance of putting alphabet soup letters in your tweets or alphabet soup letters in your live streams, mentioning all these stupid things, because it's as an absolute joke. Anybody reads my articles and We Like Sports, when I mention these, you notice I never mention them. I always quote belt, end quote, for that reason. These things are an absolute joke. These things are absolutely crooked, and these is all because of power play. That's why for the longest time, some of these organizations, if some of these fighters basically said at some point, they say, hell with a belt, you want it, you can have it, because I have bigger fish to fry. These belts don't do anything for a fighter, especially the ones that are established like a Canelo Alvarez or Alexander Usyk. Quit acting like belts matter. Quit mentioning these guys. Quit giving these guys the time of day. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute disgrace. You guys are every bit the joke they are when you mention the letters in your tweets, in your podcasts, whatever. It needs to stop. And if you want to continue to go with the belts, have at it. Just keep yourself away from me. Go back to them and start kissing their butt, because you're not going to like what I have to say to you.
Fair play, Serhan. Well said, mate. Look at that for perfect timing. That's left me 20 seconds to say goodbye to everyone in the chat. Big up yourself, my man. Big up to everyone for coming through. Please subscribe to Boxing Media Hub. Check out Serhan Dai on X. He speaks nothing but facts. He's my brother from another mother from Cincinnati, Ohio. Check him out. Check out his writes up on what's the channel called, bro?
It's called We Like Sports. One last thing, one quick service announcement. This Monday on September 2nd at this time in the States, 5 p.m. your time, my show Serhan on X will be live. I will chronicle the 15-year anniversary of Assault in the Ring and relive the Louis Resto Billy Collins fiasco in full detail.
Beautiful. Make sure you're there, guys, and make sure you hit a like, share, and subscribe on Boxing Media Hub, and we'll see you guys all soon. God bless. Thank you all for coming through. Big up, Serhan. Take care, my brother.